Welcome to Maryland Carey Law's webinar on the Master of Science in Law program. My name is Crystal Edwards, and I serve as the Associate Dean for Legal Studies and an academic advisor for MS in Law students. My colleague, Jordan Hurd, and I will spend time today providing an overview of the program, detailing the structure of our curriculum, explaining our learning platform, and discussing valuable resources available to Maryland Carey Law MS in Law students. You will hear me refer to this advanced master's level degree offered at Maryland Carey Law as the Master of Science in Law, the MS in Law, or simply the MSL interchangeably throughout this webinar. So first, why the MS in Law? The degree is designed for working professionals like you who want to master and understand the law without earning a JD, recognizing that developing a legal literacy will give you a competitive edge in your industry and help you communicate better with lawyers. And that you do not want to intend to practice law. The degree is completed entirely online, and the asynchronous format provides flexibility for our working professional students to complete the 30 required credits over 4 semesters. Some people have thought about studying their law their whole lives, and many of our students say, I've always been interested in law school. Others later recognize at some point during their professional lives that they could really benefit from learning certain aspects of the law as it relates to their work. The MS in Law is designed for you. Remember that students earn this master's degree from the University of Maryland Francis King Carey School of Law. So law always serves as our underpinning for everything in the curriculum. Students learn how to approach and analyze complex business and industry-specific issues through a legal lens, with an emphasis on learning both the legal doctrine and the practical application. With the MS in Law, students then can apply their newly acquired understanding of the law in various professional sectors, such as crisis management, cybersecurity, healthcare, higher education, and employment. Now we want to talk more about the structure of the curriculum. Understanding how precious time is, particularly for working professionals, we developed the MS in Law program to provide academic rigor and flexibility through our online asynchronous learning platform. The sequence structure of our curriculum guides you to meet the program's general learning objectives. Students complete our part-time program in 4 semesters at a steady, manageable pace that works for students with busy professional and personal commitments. Again, I want to emphasize that the MSL is grounded in the law and developing a strong foundation in legal analysis, legal research, the regulatory system, legal ethics, dispute resolution, and the overall structure of the legal system are the necessary underpinnings to the practical application of the law in the context of the specialty areas. So the foundational required courses, all students take these 18 credits of required coursework. That includes foundational coursework, capstone project, and 9 to 12 credits in their focus area. We'll show you a semester by semester breakdown of the curriculum and provide examples of the specialty courses in each pathway shortly. Let's start in the first semester with U.S. law and the legal system. After you complete that course, you'll continue in the second half of the first semester with 2 courses that couple together, legal research and legal methods. Each course runs for approximately 8 weeks and allows you to focus your attention on just 1 or 2 courses at a time and still progress through each semester at a reasonable pace and absorb the content thoroughly. In the second semester, You continue with foundational legal coursework to learn about public law and our regulatory system and legal ethics. At this point, students start to pursue focus area coursework by taking what we call a survey course. Each area of focus has a survey course, which is a comprehensive course in the topic where you learn many of the aspects of the law specifically related to your focus. This survey course serves as a prerequisite for the other specialty courses in your third semester. In the third semester, all students join together again for the dispute resolution and negotiation course, and students often comment on how quickly they realize how these dispute resolution skills and methods are applicable across all industries. In addition, in that semester, along with the dispute resolution, students take 2 more courses in their area of emphasis. In your last semester, we provide flexibility for students to take an elective, which for most students is another course in their focus area. Some students, however, may choose an elective of interest, particularly when they can relate it to their culminating capstone project. Here's an overview of what the 4 semesters look like for our students. You'll notice here that in the first semester, students take a total of 8 credits. They focus on U.S. law and the legal system in the first half, and the second half, legal methods and legal research. In the second semester, students take 7 credits, focusing first on public law and the regulatory process, and the second half focusing on ethics, and that's survey course, their focus area. In the third semester, there's another specialty course that students can take while they're taking dispute resolution. And in the second half of the semester, they do 1 more specialty course. And in that final semester, students work on the capstone project for the entire semester, and they have the ability to take an elective in the first part of the semester. As previously mentioned, all students take foundational survey courses in their preferred area of focus. So our cybersecurity law area of focus, the survey course is Law and Policy of Cybersecurity. For Homeland Security and Crisis Management Law, students take Law and Policy of Emergency Management. The foundational coursework for employment law, the course entitled Employment Law. For healthcare law, students take a survey course called Healthcare Law and Policy. And for the higher education law focus, students take Higher Education Law and Policy as their survey course. Next, we want to be able to share with you a sample of the kinds of courses you can take in your specific focus area. These courses are designed to delve deeper into complex and novel areas of the law to complement the initial survey course. So you'll see here for employment law, classes like employment, discrimination, labor law, employee benefits or ERISA law. For our healthcare law, students, in addition to that survey course, students take courses like food and drug law, healthcare reform, public health law. For our higher education law area of focus, in addition to the survey course in higher education law and policy, students learn about legal aspects of student affairs, higher education regulatory compliance, and a course in information and data privacy. For our cyber security law focus, students take, in addition to the survey course in cybersecurity, cybercrime, a national security, foreign intelligence, and privacy class, and a law and policy of artificial intelligence course. For our Homeland Security and Crisis Management focus, students take that initial survey course, followed by Homeland Security and the Law of Counterterrorism, the Law and Policy of Emergency Public Health Response, and a course in cybersecurity as well. As I mentioned previously, in the final semester, students are given some flexibility to take an elective that may not be directly connected to their area of focus, but still is related in some way. So students can opt to take the Law and Policy of Artificial Intelligence, information and data privacy, legislation and advocacy, or they can choose to take one of the other survey courses from one of the other focus areas. We wanted to provide students with the ability to take this additional elective because we recognize that there's intersections that students may be interested in learning about, particularly as it may relate to their culminating capstone project. So finally, in the final semester, you will work with a faculty supervisor on a capstone project that brings together all the knowledge and skills that you've been developing in your prior coursework. Here are just some sample capstone projects that students have worked on in prior years. What I like most about the capstone is that you can think of a meaningful project that applies to your current work or your future work. You get to explore a novel issue or problem and solve it through a legal lens. Here you get to showcase your newly developed legal analysis, legal research, legal writing skills, and you get to demonstrate practical ways the law applies to your industry or focus area. Now I want to turn it over to my colleague, Jordan Hurd, to talk about some of the resources that we provide to our MS in Law students to help them navigate our program successfully.
Hello, everyone. I am Jordan, and I am the Graduate Program Senior Coordinator here. And I wanted to reinforce that we have many resources for our online students so that you feel part of the community and that you know that although you're taking your program virtual and asynchronous, we have lots of resources so that you can get help and be successful as you move through. Part of that, I want to reinforce just during this webinar that you are welcome to use the Q&A function, ask any questions that you may have, and I will relay those to Dean Edwards as we continue the webinar. So one of the resources that we offer right up front is that we will have a live virtual orientation for our MSL students. During that orientation, we can go over what is expected of you as a student, again, reiterate resources for you so that you know that if you get stuck, where to go for help. So that will be before you even begin your program. You have access to your academic advisor, which in this case would be Dean Edwards, and your program coordinator, which is me, so that you have live, real humans to work with and ask your questions to as you're going through. You also have faculty members that are really eager to help. They are very passionate about their courses and their subject areas, and they are also eager to answer any questions that you have moving through the program. Along with those, we have other resources like your librarians, your writing center, and your career services as you go through. You may have different questions depending on where you're at in the cycle, so we have those available to you. Your career services department also does what we call a career development workshop series, where we have different topics that you can attend virtual but live. There are about resume building, your cover letter building, LinkedIn, different topics as you move through so that you can reinforce your education with different resources to move up within your position or branch out. And then we also have different anchor events that are going through the law program. Each month there's a different topic, and we have legal experts that come to the law school and discuss that topic. You would receive a link from me to attend that presentation virtually. It is really exciting. I'm always there. It is very interesting to be able to dive deeper into the law, even if it's not your focus area. So please don't hesitate to reach out with your questions as we move through, and I will be sure to relay those. Dean Edwards?
Thank you, Ms. Hurd. So before we wrap up today's webinar, we want to give you a peek of what you can expect in our online classroom and what your weekly schedule looks like. So we use a learning platform called Blackboard, where you will have access to recorded lectures, and we want to be able to share with you what that looks like. Most students, or prospective students, I should say, really are curious about what a weekly class schedule looks like. And so each week we have modules that are designed to help you navigate the semester's worth of coursework. You will be expected to read the assigned course materials, watch the lecture videos, similarly to if you were coming to the classroom itself. You'll be able to watch those recorded videos of your professors. In addition, the professors provide PowerPoints that align with the lectures. We also ask students to participate in discussion boards where you'll be able to engage with your colleagues by posting questions and responding to each other similarly to the way that you would engage in a live classroom. In addition, your professors are participating in discussion board so that you can have that interactive dynamic. Yes, there are assignments and assessments. So the assignments and assessments come in several formats depending on the course. You may have practice quizzes, you may have written exercises, other writing assignments in terms of short papers. There's also an end of unit assessment for most modules to make sure that you're actually understanding the content that's being delivered and that you have a good mastery of the subject. In addition, professors will schedule Zoom sessions at particular cycles so that you can actively engage them in virtual office hours. Many professors also offer optional synchronous exam review sessions so that you have the ability to ask questions and listen to other students' questions before you have your exams. And so generally speaking, students are able to navigate the expectations each week as long as they are adhering to the schedule. So while there's flexibility in this online learning platform, it's not designed so that you're saving all of the materials until the end of the semester and doing it all in a single sitting. Really, we provide a weekly schedule that helps give guidance to our students so that they can incorporate the weekly expectations alongside their other commitments. And so you'll be able to see on the syllabus specific due dates for those assignments, and you'll be able to make sure that you can incorporate all of the work that's expected. We want to give you a sneak peek again of what our virtual classroom looks like and share with you the online learning platform called Blackboard. And so here's an example of the US Law and the Legal System course. This is the Blackboard format. At orientation, we work with students so that you have a head start on understanding how to navigate Blackboard. We'll walk you through those basics. But for today's webinar, we just want to make sure that you can have a chance to visualize what the platform looks like. And so most of the courses are set up in this same way, where you'll be able to see the different modules. You'll see here, there's a discussion forum. You'll be able to see the syllabus. All of the course content that you need is right here in the learning platform. Just as an example, I'm going to click on this module for torts. In that first semester course, you'll see that there's an overview. There are lecture videos. You'll be able to see the quizzes, the discussion forum. And just as a sample, I also want you to be able to see what the video lecture looks like. We'll just take a few seconds of this video lecture so that you can see.
In this module, we're going to discuss torts. I love torts. It's one of the more interesting subjects we will cover in this course. A lot of the most interesting cases you'll hear about on TV and in legal publications have to do with these torts. The spilling of the hot coffee, the botched medical procedure, the car accidents. All of these things are incidents that occur in tort law, and it makes it interesting and fun to study. So let's dig into it.
Dean
Great.
Edwards, I have a question regarding that video.
Yes.
How often are the video lectures updated? The law is rapidly changing, especially in some of these subjects that we cover. So do they get updated?
Absolutely. So our professors every semester and also throughout the semester, because there are evolutions in the law, because the law does change, frequently will update the content of the materials that are covered in the course. And so these are not recorded lectures that ignore what's happening in real time. Often professors will, in addition to the recordings that are posted, will supplement the materials to make sure that they're capturing those evolutions in the law as they happen. They may also include that kind of information in the kinds of questions that they post in the discussion forum. So very often in these courses, particularly in the foundational courses, but also in the focus area courses, as current events unfold, professors are incorporating that information in their classroom to the extent that it's appropriate. That's a great question. Thank you so much for asking. So before we get to the admissions requirements, I want to ask if we have any other questions in the queue that we should take right now.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
One question was back when you were on the capstone slide. We have a student wondering if they should come into the program knowing what their capstone topic will be or whether they'll have time to develop that as they move through.
That is also an excellent question. So some students have an idea what they might like to think about for a capstone before they start with us, but many students do not, and that is perfectly fine. Very often what happens is that when you get exposed to the courses, whether those are the foundational legal courses or throughout those specific focus area courses, you learn something new and interesting about the law, and you decide at that point, hey, this may be an interesting capstone topic. So we don't leave you alone to navigate that process all by yourself. You, again, will have the opportunity to work with a faculty advisor to help you shape the content and the scope of your capstone project. You may have something really very interesting that happens at work while you're in the program and you say, hey, this is an area that I'd like to think about focusing on for my capstone. As you go through the specialty courses, as you're reading the content, as you're going through each module, you may say, hey, I'd like to discover a little bit more about this. And am I like this to be a focus on the capstone? So no, you don't have to come in knowing exactly what that culminating capstone project will be. In fact, the goal of the capstone is to integrate all the things that you've learned throughout the program into that final project. And so we don't expect you to know that before you actually get started with us and absorb that content. Thank you for that question.
We have a couple more. What would you say to those who are interested in multiple of the topics that we offer?
So what I would say is that one of the reasons that we have that culminating elective in the last semester is because it gives you an opportunity to expand beyond your initial focus area. The other that I would encourage students to recognize is that already built in is some integration. And so particularly in courses where a paper is expected, you may be able to choose paper topics that help integrate some of the content from some of the other areas. And we often think about where there's intersectionality. And so even though students are only in a single focus area, there are often ways to integrate ideas and topics from the other areas and still maintain that focus. Thank you for that question.
The other question is regards to scheduling. So one student is wondering whether we have the option to take summer courses as we move through, or is it just fall and spring?
Yeah, so that's a really fantastic question. So the majority of our students are taking fall and spring courses, and some students will also take summer courses. So it really depends on the focus area, what that schedule will look like. In an effort to make sure that students are able to take one or two courses at a time, we do offer some courses in the summer. And in some instances, some of the summer schedule anticipates that students will be able to continue throughout the summer. And so if you want to take classes in the summer, we can talk with you about what that would look like. If you want to pause on the summer, we can talk to you about that would look like. Part of it depends on whether you start with us in the fall or if you start with us in the spring. Thank you for that question.
Wonderful. That is what we have right now in the queue.
Wonderful. So I'm wondering, Ms. Hurd, if you could, as we are nearing the hour, talk a little bit about the admissions requirements and maybe what next steps are for students who may be interested in learning more.
I would love to. I'd like to first reiterate that I had a question in a queue that I'd like to voice live now is that we are going to open up the spring application on August 1st. So that is coming pretty quickly, and our spring semester will begin in January. But the admission requirements is you'll create an online account and work through the online application. As part of that, you'll have a statement of interest that is 500 to 1,000 words on what your interests, why you are interested in achieving your MS in law. So we'd like to know where that passion comes from. We'd like to explore what sparked your interest and what you're interested in studying there. We will also require your resume or CV, your character and fitness statement, and then your transcripts from all education institutions you have attended. And then finally, we will have a letter of recommendation. That letter of recommendation can come from a previous faculty member, as a lot of our students are coming through after taking a break from higher education. Maybe they've been in the working field for quite some time, and achieving a letter of recommendation from a previous faculty member may be difficult. So Geraldine Admission is very happy to explore your options there. Typically, we will look at maybe a manager or somebody who's overseeing you in the workforce now. There is no GRE and no LSAT required. So one of those standardized tests is not required, which means that the application can be completed fairly quickly if you're motivated to be achieving these documents.
Thank you so much. I also just want to clarify that if you are still looking for admissions for this fall, that application deadline is coming up shortly, so please connect with the admissions office. Some of our focus areas have start dates in the fall semester, some have it in the spring semester, but not all start in the spring. So again, please follow up with admissions. Tell them what you're interested in focusing on, and then they will give you more information about the application process. Wonderful. Well, I want to pause and make sure that we don't have any more questions in the queue. If you do have additional questions after this webinar, please feel free to reach out to our admissions office. They will connect you to either of us to answer any of your academic related questions or your resource related questions. If you have questions about the application process itself, the admissions office is most equipped to answer those questions. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. We look forward to seeing you in our program in the future.
Thank you.